Have you ever heard a story that was so terrifying, it made you question everything you thought you knew about the world? A story that made you wonder if the things you thought were harmless were actually hiding a dark and sinister secret? Do you remember the nursery rhyme about the gingerbread man and how he came to life and ran away from the oven? But what if I told you that there's a darker side to this beloved children's tale? A side that involves a mysterious disappearance and a trail of clues that lead to a terrifying truth. What if I told you that the gingerbread man is not just a character in a nursery rhyme, but a harbinger of doom, a creature that preys on the innocent and the unwary? And what if I told you that this creature is still out there, waiting for its next victim? Let me tell you the story of Timmy, a 7-year-old boy who disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and the only clue left behind was a small handmade gingerbread man with a note that read, "Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." But as you listen to this story, ask yourself, what if this isn't just a story? What if this is real? The gingerbread man, a beloved character in children's nursery rhymes, has been a staple of holiday traditions for centuries. The tale of a gingerbread cookie come to life, escaping the clutches of a hungry fox and outsmarting various other predators, has been delighting children and adults alike for generations. But as with many traditional tales, there's more to the story than meets the eye. The origins of the gingerbread man date back to the 16th century Europe, where gingerbread was a popular treat during the holiday season. But as the years went by, the tale of the gingerbread man evolved, and the character became a symbol of mischief and cunning. But what if I told you that there's a darker side to this beloved tale? A side that's been hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered. And it all started with the arrival of a mysterious baker in our town. A man with a penchant for gingerbread and a secret that would change everything. His name was unknown, but his presence was felt by all, and the sweet aroma of freshly baked gingerbread wafting from his shop was only the beginning of a terrifying tale that would haunt our town for years to come. As the days went by, the townsfolk began to whisper about the mysterious baker who had arrived in town. He was a tall, thin man with a gaunt face and sunken eyes, and he seemed to appear out of nowhere. No one knew where he came from, but he was always seen carrying a large sack of flour and sugar, and the smell of freshly baked gingerbread wafted from his shop. At first, the townsfolk were excited to have a new baker in town, but as the days went by, they began to notice strange things. Doors would slam shut on their own, and the sound of footsteps could be heard coming from the empty streets at night. Some even reported seeing shadowy figures lurking in the alleys, but whenever they turned to look, there would be no one there. The townsfolk tried to brush it off as mere coincidence, but the feeling of unease grew. They would hear strange noises coming from the baker's shop at night, like the sound of whispering and faint laughter. And then there were the gingerbread men. They would appear on doorsteps and in windows, always with a sly grin and a twinkle in their eye. It was as if they were watching the townsfolk, waiting for them to make a wrong move. One night, a group of brave townsfolk decided to investigate the baker's shop. They approached the door, but it was locked. "The door was locked," one of them whispered, "but I could hear it turning." They tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. Suddenly, the wind picked up and the trees creaked and groaned. The townsfolk exchanged nervous glances, and then they heard it. A faint humming noise, like the sound of a child singing a nursery rhyme. It was soft at first, but it grew louder and louder until it became a deafening chant. The townsfolk tried to run, but their feet felt heavy, as if they were stuck to the ground. And then the humming stopped. The silence was oppressive, and the townsfolk knew that they were not alone. Something was watching them, waiting for them to make a wrong move. And then the chase began. As the townsfolk ran for their lives, the gingerbread man's laughter grew louder and more maniacal. He was everywhere and nowhere at the same time, his gingerbread body blurring and shifting as he moved. The townsfolk stumbled and fell, their screams echoing through the streets as the gingerbread man closed in. And then, in a flash of insight, it became clear. The gingerbread man was not just a simple cookie come to life. He was a vessel, a host for an ancient and malevolent spirit that had been awakened by the mysterious baker's dark magic. As the townsfolk watched in horror, the gingerbread man's body began to contort and twist, his limbs elongating and merging into a grotesque, inhuman form. His face stretched into a twisted grin, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "I am the devourer of souls," the gingerbread man hissed, his voice like a rusty gate. "And you, dear townsfolk, are my next meal." The townsfolk froze in terror, unable to move or speak as the gingerbread man began to stalk them, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly hunger. And then, in a flash of chaos, the gingerbread man pounced, his jaws open wide as he prepared to devour his prey. The last thing the townsfolk saw was the gingerbread man's twisted face, his eyes blazing with an evil intensity as he whispered a single chilling word: "Mine." The townsfolk who survived the encounter with the gingerbread man were left shaken and traumatized. They stumbled back to their homes, their minds reeling with the horror of what they had faced. As they tried to process the events of the night, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had missed something, that there had been a warning sign that they had ignored. As they gathered in the town square trying to make sense of the chaos, they noticed something strange. The mysterious baker's shop was still standing, but it was now empty and silent. The sign above the door read, "Closed" in bold letters, and the windows were boarded up. The townsfolk breathed a collective sigh of relief, thinking that the nightmare was finally over. But as they turned to leave, they noticed something that made their blood run cold. On the door of the shop, in letters made of icing and candy, was a message: "The baking continues." At first, they thought it was just a cruel joke, a twisted message from the gingerbread man. But as they looked closer, they saw something that made their hearts sink. The message was not written in icing and candy, but in blood. And it was not just a message, but a promise. As the townsfolk watched in horror, the door of the shop creaked open, and a figure emerged. It was the mysterious baker, his face twisted into a grotesque grin. And behind him, an army of gingerbread men, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly hunger. The townsfolk tried to run, but it was too late. The gingerbread men closed in, their jaws open wide as they prepared to devour their prey. And as the townsfolk screamed, the mysterious baker whispered a single chilling word: "Welcome to the bakery." The town descended into chaos, the sound of screams and laughter echoing through the streets. The sign above the shop seemed to pulse with a malevolent life of its own, reading "Open" in bold letters as the darkness closed in. The baking had indeed continued, and the townsfolk were now the main ingredient. As the town was consumed by the darkness, the legend of the gingerbread man lived on, a cautionary tale about the dangers of meddling with forces beyond our understanding. But the truth behind the legend was far more sinister, a reminder that some horrors are too great to be contained by mere myth and legend. The gingerbread man was not just a monster, but a symptom of a deeper evil that lurked in the shadows, waiting to strike. And as the last survivor of the town fled into the night, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the gingerbread man was still out there, waiting for them. The darkness seemed to press in around them, a living, breathing entity that threatened to consume them at any moment. And then, just as they thought they had escaped, they heard the faint sound of laughter, a low, menacing chuckle that seemed to come from all around them. The gingerbread man was not just a legend, but a harbinger of doom, a warning that the horrors that lurked in the shadows were always waiting, always watching. As the survivor disappeared into the night, the sound of laughter grew louder, until it was almost deafening. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. The silence that followed was oppressive, a heavy, crushing weight that seemed to press down on the earth itself. And in the darkness, a single, terrifying phrase was whispered, a phrase that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. "The baking will never be done. Now that you've heard the terrifying tale of the gingerbread man, we want to hear from you. What did you think of the story? And if you're feeling brave, we have another horror story that's sure to send chills down your spine. Check out our latest video and see if you can make it through the night without sleeping with the lights on." But before you go, we have to ask, what's the most terrifying thing about the Gingerbread Man story? Is it the way he seems to come to life, or the sinister forces that drive him to terrorize the town? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video, if you dare. Thank you for watching this chilling story. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more terrifying tales. Explore other genres of horror and scary stories on this channel. There's something to keep every horror fan awake at night. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload.